Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee, and I'm working on our beautiful 2023 CVO Street Glide. It's a platinum color. If you watched our other video, you watched us get it and bring it here. We are working today on one of the two things I hate about this bike. They're two important things, and they're both the sound. The exhaust sounds terrible. Our friends at Chromeworks are working on that, but the audio is so disappointing compared to anything we normally put out. It's not loud enough, it's not clear enough. I've looked at the specs and I really didn't believe them, so I'm doing some actual testing on it. We're taking an RTA, we're measuring the signals coming out of the amp. We're also using a dyno to see just how much power we're getting. So watch this video as I go over everything you need to know about the HD audio by Rockford in the 2023 and a half CVO Street Glide. All right, so today's the day. This is the bike, if you watched our previous video, that we bought at Columbia Harley Davidson, and we brought back here to develop and learn how to build better audio systems. Now, I was a little disappointed. I thought that Rockford Fosgate had stepped it up. We heard that they had went to a little better speaker. The amplifier is supposed to now be 500 watts versus the previous amp was 400 watts. And I really had some pretty high expectations of it being a pretty good rider system, and that we would be building a next level system for those guys who just really wanted a lot better. Now, a good friend of ours, Q from Riding and Wrenching, he had picked up his bike first, and he sent me a message before I even got ours and got to listen to it, and he said, hey, this system on my bike is terrible. Now, since then, I know he's put a bigger windshield, he's done some other things, he's made it where it's a little easier to listen to and hear, at least at highway speeds, but it still doesn't compare to his other bike. Now, I'm kind of in the same situation. I've got a 14 model police bike with this huge Hertz system, and it sounds amazing, and I listen to this system, and it's just very, very lackluster. With the custom EQ, it's not loud at all. When you go to the HD Signature EQ from Harley, it's super distorted and really, really bassy. And I'm going to show you on an RTA exactly what each of those settings do and what this output looks like that we're feeding to the speakers. But first, I want to find out, does it really have 500 watts? We're told it does 125 watts of RMS power at 2 ohm. That's the spec from Harley. We happen to have a certified amp dyno. We're one of the few places that owns one that's not a manufacturer. So we're going to hook it up to the front. I've actually got it already hooked up. We're going to run a test and find out just how much power we're actually getting. Let's get our bike fired up and let's run through that test. All right, so let's talk about a dyno. I want to explain what it is and why we have one. So first off, we went through this long spell of time that it seemed like manufacturers kept putting bigger and bigger numbers on boxes to sell amplifiers. But we really weren't getting true power. So we invested in this dyno. It's very expensive. It's made by Tony Diamore Engineering. This thing is phenomenal. It's called an AD1 amplifier dyno. It'll let us do a couple different tests. But the one that I think is most important is called a certified dyno run. That means it's going to use voltage that our vehicle normally would. So we're going to be measuring a certified run at 12.4 volts. We're also going to be doing it at less than 1% total harmonic distortion. Now, some amplifiers put out more power than what we're going to see in this test if you allow them to get very distorted. So we may run it two ways. First, we're going to do a certified run. This is what most amp manufacturers are showing you on their box if they care and actually don't lie to you about their specs. So I've disconnected, just to let you know, we've disconnected the front speakers. I've pulled the fairing. We'll do a later step-by-step video showing you how to remove the fairing on your new Street Glide. But for now, I just skipped that so I can show you the dyno a lot faster. Outer fairing's off, and we are plugged into our front speaker signal that would feed the front speakers. I've also disconnected the rear speakers because we're going to play a test tone that pushes this amplifier that's in this fairing to its limits, and we don't want to blow the speakers in the process. We've got some more tests we want to run with those without damaging them. So we're going to turn our bike on, and we're going to load a test track. It's a 1 kilohertz sweep is what it's called. It's a special track that comes from the dyno company that if we play through USB, and I've got it here inside this pocket plugged in. Let's get our accessory power on our bike. All right, so I've got that plugged into the radio. We're gonna go to that, and right now I think I've got it on the Harley signature tune. That seems to be the highest output tune for it, and we'll see how much power we get. So I'll bring up our USB. We're gonna be on track 9. Track 9 is the correct one to do mids and highs. Now there is track 4 is what you do if you're doing subwoofers. If you're testing a big sub amp, we're not testing that. So we're gonna go on our amp dyno now. I'm gonna select a certified dyno run. I'm also gonna do it in stereo because I'm measuring both front speakers, and we're gonna select our impedance as 2 ohm. Now you're gonna see, it's gonna tell us now, use test track 4 or 9. We're on 9 because that's the correct one for mids and highs. We're gonna start the dyno, and then we're gonna unpause the radio. So let's check our volume. We've got our volume all the way up. It's gonna do a sweep. I'm gonna hit start dyno. I'm now gonna hit play. And let's see what we actually get here. We're gonna watch our power start to go up. We're looking for that 125 watts that they've promised us. Oh wow, so we got 80 watts. So 79 on the right channel, 80 on the left channel. That's at 2 ohms and 12.3 volts. Now that's very, very low compared to the stated 500 watts. I want to do another test. We'll test it again. So this is a certified test. This should be our most stringent test. So I want to do a dynamic test, and we'll see if it gets any better. So I'll reset our dyno. Uncertified run. Let's do an uncertified run. We're gonna start our track over. We're gonna pause it. We're gonna do it in 2 channel. We're gonna go ahead and run it at 2 ohm. Any test track 3 through 11. I'm just gonna rerun 9. That's what we just did a minute ago. I'm gonna hit start. I'm now gonna hit play. And let's see what we get now. Starting to build a little bit of power. Now this is it does not care about distortion in this case. So distortion is not gonna cut us out. Okay, certified to clipping was 80 watts. Uncertified, to clipping was 80 watts. So we got the same exact amount, which means that amplifier is doing its maximum amount before clip. So whether it distorted or not, we still didn't get but 80 watts. That's pretty low. That means that we need a speaker that's extremely efficient to have a good clean sound out of this system, which these particular Rockford speakers in the past haven't seemed to be as efficient as some of our other options. So we've got a couple more tests I want to show you. So we're going to connect our RTA up, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the limitations of this stereo system on your upgrade and about the plug-and-play solutions we're building to make this system so much better. All right, so now we're going to do an RTA test. We're going to play something called pink noise on our radio. That pink noise is all the different frequencies that you would have in music played at the same time. It sounds like static or fuzz when it's playing, but it's everything at once at the same level. If everything is correct in our radio, if it's putting out an identical signal out that it's receiving in, we should have a perfectly flat EQ on screen here. Now I will tell you, I'm running what they call the HD signature EQ currently. I will go to flat and I'll show you how that works. But all this is important. We know that the older Harleys had way too much bass in the stock radio flash, and that bass boost was blowing the rear speakers, and it made almost all of our upgraded installs sound very distorted and not great. So we had to do one of 2 things. You either had to put a DSP in place, and you had to correct that EQ curve on the input of your DSP and then feed a better signal out to your amplifier. That's why DSP became so popular in Harley. Now, a couple years into that new 14 and newer style radio, the development of the Techno Research Flash tool came about, and we could flash the stock radio, pick different EQ curves that were hidden in the back of the radio, and we could fix that output, which made it where we weren't always needing a DSP to do an awesome install. Now, I was a little afraid that this radio wouldn't be any different. It would have really poor signal, and we would probably have to start off with DSP until there was another way or a better way. Now, I've spent the day testing the output of the radio, and I will tell you, there are no speaker wires coming out of the radio. What we're reading here is out of the Rockford Fosgate amplifier. The radio sends a digital signal called A to B from the radio to the amp, so there is no speaker wire to grab in between and add a different amplifier. Now this is a CVO and it only comes with a Rockford system. So the base model bikes, when they come out that are not CVOs, may very well have analog speaker wires that leave this stock radio. There's a bunch of places for wiring, it's just not pinned yet. I'm going to start this track though, and I want you to see how close are we to flat. Because if the bass is boosted too much, if we increase power, if we do better speakers, all that could be in vain due to a bunch of distortion. So let's see what we got here. All right, now this is absolutely crazy. We are playing the signature tune, the HD or Harley Davidson signature tune on the radio. And if you'll notice, all the way down here we have a 12 dB line, and that middle line is a 0 dB. And then up here's another 12 dB. We have between our vocal ranges and our high range, this starting about here is where people are singing. This is upper end instruments, things that are a little higher pitched all the way up into the cymbals. As we get down to bass, we have this huge, it's actually a 24 dB boost. That is a ridiculous amount. 3 dB is twice the electrical current. So it's about 8 times more current being fed to the speakers in the bass areas as is happening in the mid vocal range. And when you listen to it, you hear it. It's distorted, it's muddy, it's unclear. And it's got a lot of bass, way more bass than these speakers can do without long-term blowing up. So let's try one of our other settings on our radio. I'm going to back out here. I'm going to go to settings. We're going to go to audio or sound, and we're going to pick our EQ. Now we're in the HD signature mode. Let's go all the way down here to custom, and we're going to bring our custom EQ up. So this shows a flat screen, which should be flat. We'll bring up our volume a little bit so we can see it on our curve. And you're going to see here, again, this crazy bass boost. Now, I've messed with this EQ enough a little earlier off camera that I know what I can do to help it. So I can bring 80 hertz down, which starts to bring that down, but I can't bring it down enough. So I've got to start boosting the other frequencies up. This is completely backwards of what you would think an EQ would look like to get decent sound. But if I boost the whole rest of it and then lower the 80 hertz range down, I can get closer to a flat run. But we've got to just keep boosting everything up in this EQ. Now, we're not going to be expecting you as the consumer, the person that bought that new Harley and said it sounds bad, and you reach out to Volunteer Audio and you're going, I want a better sounding system. I want it to sound like my old bike. I want it to sound like something you've done before, something you've heard. I can't go in and say, hey, put this EQ on custom, set it like this and leave it there, and hopefully nobody messes with it, because if you turn that off or go to another one, the bass is going to be boosted up, it's going to be distorted again, you're going to blow the new speakers, you're going to clip your amplifier. So we've got to come up with a better solution. So we're working on that. The part of today was to show you the issues and the problems with the factory system, to explain why it's so unclear. And I'll tell you, look at this EQ. If you're using the stock amp, that actually makes it sound a whole lot better by doing an EQ more like this than any of the factory preset EQs. I did some listening and it made it better. It's still not great. We are very excited about a couple facts we found out on this Harley though. 6.5-inch front speakers from the factory. That's going to make it a lot easier to upgrade because most of the 6.5s we sell are going to drop right in. Our lid speakers are a 5x7, but believe it or not, Harley gave us a 6x9 provision and mounted a smaller speaker and an adapter. So later we'll do a video showing you how to remove this speaker, how to remove that adapter, how to put a bigger, better 6x9 directly in its place, as well as how to upgrade the front. We've got a bunch of just step-by-step videos that we're putting together to show you about this bike. But overall, the usability of the radio is really cool. The graphic user interface, the gauges, the way it looks, the way it functions. The output though, all of this is coming from the Rockford Fosgate amplifier. They're sending a digital signal from the radio to the amp. That amp is then doing its own preset EQ, and this doesn't look that bad, but again, all I have to do is correct our EQ back to where it probably should give us a good flat signal, and it's absolutely terrible at that point. That is just something we can't hardly overcome without a DSP. So we'll be working on adding a DSP to this bike. We'll be doing some tuning on it, and I'll also be researching with Techno Research any flashes that could be done to the stock radio. So definitely subscribe to our channel, because as we figure these things out, I'm just kind of taking you through the process with us. I'm going to make more videos. We're going to go over those solutions. We're going to show you why Volunteer Audio always has the best plug-and-play solutions and amp and speaker packages for your Harley. So, hope this was informative. I hope it didn't just go over your head. We can't have bass that's boosted that much because these little 6x9s and 6.5s won't do it without blowing up. We don't have any subwoofers. So continue to watch Volunteer Audio on YouTube. We're going to have more videos. We're going to go more in depth. I'm going to show you how to take it apart, how to put it together, how to upgrade it. Like this video. By liking it, it's going to help us by moving us up in search standings, and other people with their new CVOs trying to figure out what to do about the audio hopefully won't do anything rash and mess up and cut things and get into a mess that they don't need to be in. So it will help them as well. Subscribe to our channel and we'll show you the latest in Harley Davidson audio, from new products as they come out to step-by-step install instructions to how to use it even after it's been installed. That way, after you've made that purchase, you know what you're doing with it and you get the most out of it. If you have any other questions, comment below. We're very, very quick to answer. Whatever it is that you may have or other things you want to see about this bike, comment it. Let us know. We've got a whole series of things we're going to do. Watch our future videos. Chromeworks has got some amazing slip-ons that are going to help our exhaust, and there'll be other upgrades we do as well as we move on. Give us a call at 1-844-30-AUDIO if you've got questions about your Harley and its audio system, if you want to get on the schedule for us to do an install, or if you want to just get a DIY plug-and-play kit shipped to you. We'd love to go over those options, the pricing, and put together the perfect package for you. Check out all of our available kits at volunteeraudio.com as well. So that's where you're going to find your step-by-step videos as well as all the plug-and-play kits already pre-packaged. Again, call us. You'll get a live person that's very, very knowledgeable if you have questions about those things. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.